Greetings. Welcome to Into the Light. My name is Donald Schmid, and the topic of today's show is Trust God and Help Others. For many years, I was selfish, self-centered, didn't care about anybody or anyone. I just wanted to drink, go to the track, go to work, drink, go to the track, occasionally drugs. It was all about me, 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 me. And I went on vacation once, and I didn't get past Belmont Racetrack. And I think on that vacation, I spent about $2,800, and I didn't even go anywhere. My life was a mess. I didn't even know it. You know, there was no way out, and there was no way up. And then later in life, I would discover something that was beneficial for others and also beneficial to me, and that was volunteering my time, my talent, my treasure. Growing up, I was told that there was starving kids in Africa when I left my food, you know. We didn't have a lot, we didn't have much. I was like maybe 12. And the Montfort Fathers, the missionaries, were in my neighborhood, in my church. And I was intrigued about being a missionary. I wasn't intrigued when one died on the job, you know. But when you give your life to God and there's a call on your life, there's going to be times of uncertainty. The money might run out. You might get held hostage or something, or you may lose your life. But when I surrendered to the fact that my way didn't work, I could have a chance. I forget when my first time volunteering was. I did a lot of one church. I did the tapes. They recorded the messages, and I would go record the message, and they would, they would sell them. And I went to another church, and I volunteered there for like 4 years. And after 4 years, you see, when you volunteer, you're planting a seed into the ground, and you don't know when the fruit's going to come up. And I just kept on going back, and I kept on volunteering. And, you know, there was a time when I didn't have a job, and I was volunteering, and then people told me, like, you really have to have an income, you know, so I was volunteering. I volunteered. One time I was volunteering, and I wanted to go in the afternoon, and they wanted to go me in the morning, and I had like some pride and ego, like, don't they know who I am? I want to go when I want to go. You know, I'm volunteering. I'm not getting paid. So I went, and I went in the morning. I think I started like 9:30, got done maybe 12:30. We did what we had to do, and it was June, and it was hot. And there was a singular phone store on the corner of Fulton and Broadway. And I was in the store for about an hour and a half. And it was hot. And I wanted to go home. And the A train was right downstairs. I could go down the escalator, get on the train, go to Ozone Park. Done deal. I hear a voice. It's not my voice. Never heard the voice before. It said, go to the Marriott. It's like, dude, I'm not going to Marriott. I want to go to the Marriott. I knew it wasn't me. It wasn't a bad voice. It was like an informative voice, like almost like giving a subtle command, you know. And I didn't want to go to Marriott. So I went to Burger King, which was on Church Street over there. They got a big strawberry shake. And it was good. And when God made the world, he says, and on the sixth day, and God saw it, and it was very good. Well, this shake was very good. But I still wasn't going to the Marriott. Relentless. Okay, go to the Marriott. I get there. Can't get in. I go into Starbucks. I walk around. I get in the front. I'm aggravated. I'm hot. What am I doing here? Which way? I didn't say it that. I said, which way? Just go to the left. I go to the left. God is my witness. There's a woman crossing Rector Street with an overflowing shopping cart with rugs. And she's having a nervous breakdown. And I said, I think God sent me here to help you. And she said, I said a prayer like 10 minutes ago. And she had to go across the West Side Highway, and, you know, I commandeered the shopping cart, and I helped her out, and I went across, you know. It wasn't unusual for me to volunteer. This day, God knew where he wanted me. I mentioned on another show that we're in God's movie, and he's the director. And it's like, places, please. So I was in church, I volunteered. I went to Superman's Kitchen for lunch. I went to Singular. I went to Strawberry Shake. And all this led me to this young woman who was having difficulty negotiating the West Side Highway. And I helped her across. And I told her I wasn't working and everything, and she wanted to bless me. And I said, listen, I did it because God told me to do it. I didn't do it for any reward, you know. But I know the principle of, you know, helping others that they don't have, you know, when they don't have. And this woman helped me in my time of need, you know. Lunch was like $11, you know, and I wasn't working, but I always showed up to volunteer, and I kept volunteering. So I helped her across, got her to a house, and she reaches into her purse. She gives me a brand new $50 bill. And I said, thank you. You know, we meet in the Marriott on Sundays, 10 o'clock if you want to join us. And she didn't come. But that was okay. You know, we don't know what we don't know. And when something like that happens, sometimes we just have to show up and be available. Another time, I was answering a phone at this convention. Everybody got together around the holidays, and there was this convention. I'm answering the phone. And I go to lunch. And I go to get chicken on Woodhaven Boulevard. I come back. I go to answer the phone. It's like 1:55 to 2. They said, Donald, you're not going to answer the phone anymore. We're going to relieve you. And the reason why you're not going to answer the phone is you're speaking in 2 minutes at the meeting, at the convention. And I said, okay. Because I believe that if we trust God, we help others, we're available, and we say yes, that when a storm or something comes and you're equipped to do something, to speak and to bring a message from God through this earthen vessel, you know, it's like he's the potter and we're the clay. And sometimes we're rough around the edges, you know, and just we can't, you know, something's bothering us and we have some bitterness, and the potter takes it and, you know, slices it off. We go, ow! And there's some bitterness, anger, resentment. You know, he needs to get rid of it, and he needs to smooth us out so we can be fit for the master's use. You know, the potter's in charge. We don't tell the potter what to do. So volunteering, you know, I showed up, I spoke, and I would I was ready, I was willing, I was available, and I did it. And I want to read from Jeremiah, the 18th chapter, about the potter's house. This is the word that came to Jeremiah from the Lord. Go down to the potter's house, and there I will give you my message. So I went down to the potter's house, and I saw him working at the wheel. But the pot he was shaping from the clay was marred in his hands. So the potter formed it into another pot, shaping it as seemed best to him. Then the word of the Lord came to me. He said, can I not do with you, Israel, as this potter does, declares the Lord? Like clay in the hand of the potter, so are you in my hand, Israel. So we were all born for such a time as this, and God's going to put us, I say, God, put me in the right place at the right time, surrounded by the right people. And I was in this shelter in Bushwick called Ready, Willing, and Able from March 23rd, 2011 to July 2nd, 2012. And I didn't know anybody on Staten Island. I said, God, send me anywhere, but don't send me to Staten Island. So he sent me to Staten Island. I landed here about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There was a bodega across the street. I unpacked my stuff in the house I was now going to live in. It was transitional housing. And I left the house and I wanted to go to the bodega, but it was closed. And there was a man. He said, hi, I'm Pastor so-and-so. I says, hi, I'm Donald. He says, what's up? I says, I just got in, I unpacked my stuff, and I was going to the bodega, but it's closed. He says, you're hungry? I says, yeah. He says, come on, I'll take you to get something to eat. He says, you like Chinese food? I says, yeah, I like Chinese food. Puts me in the car, gives me a $20 bill, and takes me to Chinese place. And he says, you know, get whatever you want, bring me change. Well, you used to get change from a 20, now you don't. And that's another story. And he was a pastor, and I had a story. And God wanted me here because I had lost everything in 2011. In 2012, and Hurricane Sandy would come here in 2012. I volunteered at my church. I just got here in July. I believe in getting active in the church. If you're in ministry and you volunteer, you don't wait 3 years to find out what your calling is. You just say yes and you let them place you where there's an opening. So I went there and I met another pastor. And he says to me, can you speak at my church? I said, sure. It was on Bay Street. And I spoke in his church, and there was this family there. They had a baby, and they hadn't been able to get pregnant for like 5 years, and they had this baby. And I gave my testimony and everything, and then they baptized the baby. The baby's name was Testimony. God knew that baby was going to be there. He knew I was going to be there. And then the pastor from next door asked me to speak at his church in Manhattan, and I went and I gave my testimony, and I get done, and he's got this line. He says, Donald, do you know what that is? I says, no, Pastor, what is it? He says, they heard from God through your message. They want you to pray for them. You know, I think when I came here today and I was doing 2 shows, I didn't have anything for the 2 shows. But because he's the potter and I'm the clay, and I let him shape me, And he's deposited scripture in me throughout the years of me following him. And I've been away from drugs and alcohol since October 31st, 1992. And Halloween was 30 years. I think he wants me to make a difference. And sometimes it's just showing up and growing up and suiting up, you know, and then I prayed for the people, and sometimes we don't know what tomorrow holds, but we know that God holds tomorrow, and you're not a surprise to him, and you lost a loved one. I've lost loved ones, and I lost my dad, and it was December, and in January we buried him, and I was a mess. I went back to work. I was there about 5 or 6 weeks. I was on the phone. I was trying to call a psychiatrist, and my boss comes in and says, "Donnie, what's up?" I says, "No, Jerry, I'm having a nervous breakdown." He says, "Donnie, you're not having a nervous breakdown." He says, "Your dad just died." He says, "You're missing him and you're grieving." Now, there's two kinds of grief. There's a grief that gradually goes away, and it's different for everybody. It can be, somebody died in the Bible, like Moses died and Joshua took over in like 30 days. It was like a grieving period. For a lot of people, for me, it was like almost 2 years, you know, and I was on the phone, and he says to me, "You know what? You need to go to a support group." He says, "Call up nearby churches and find a bereavement group or a life sharing." And now my church has one. It's called Grief Share for people who recently lost loved ones. And we're located at 1501 Richmond Avenue, International Christian Center. Pastor is Ron Squibb. And we just started a discipleship program called Following Jesus. So I made the phone call, called a few churches. It was Thursday. And it was this church. It was my old church, St. Mary Gate of Heaven, 101st Avenue, 104th Street. And they met one Thursday a month in the basement of the parish house. And it wasn't 4 weeks, and it wasn't 3 weeks, and it wasn't 2 weeks, and it wasn't 1 week. It was that Thursday night at like 7:30. So I went there. There was like 8 people there, and you know, there was the guy from the funeral parlor who was the funeral director. You know, I says, "Hey, I got a really big plate. You know, my mom's got cancer. My father died." And you know what he said to me? I wanted to slap him. Says to me, "Ask God for a bigger plate." It's like, so we have to go through, there's seasons in our life when babies are born and children and grandchildren, you know, we lose spouses or we lose parents, and it's important for me just to let people see the change that God created in me. When I was chasing the next beer or the next bet, you know, I had no off switch. You know, I had 3 suicide attempts, almost bled to death twice, almost froze to death, almost died at birth, 4 head traumas, 3 horseback riding accident, 8 months in a psychiatric hospital and 15 months in a homeless shelter. Now I'm a miracle, you know. Fear is a liar. Fear wants you dead. It wants to kill you. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and Jesus came to give us life more abundantly. You know, and if you don't know Jesus as your Lord and Savior, you can just ask him to come into your heart. Romans 10:9 and 10 says, if you believe in your heart and confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, you shall be saved. And I'm going to give it to you right from the Word. The Word is alive and sharper than a 2-edged sword. Romans 10, starting in verse 8. But what does it say? The word is near you. It is in your mouth and in your heart. That is the message concerning faith that we proclaim. If you declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For it is with your heart that you believe and are justified, and it is with your mouth that you profess your faith and are saved. As Scripture says, anyone who believes in him will never be put to shame. For there is no difference between Jew and Gentile. The same Lord is Lord of all, and richly blesses all who call on him. For everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. So that's what I did. You know, it didn't happen right away, and I continued to volunteer, and I went to Madison Square Garden, and I volunteered, and I'd go to places and I'd volunteer, and I volunteered a lot. And one time, I actually wound up getting a paying job, you know, from volunteering because they needed somebody, and I had trained in volunteering. And, you know, another time I was in a church and we did recordings, and one of the perks was we'd meet on a Monday night, we'd do like 1,200, 1,400 mailings, and we send them out. And they'd give us, we'd have maybe 5 volunteers, and it had a menu. And one night it was Italian or Chinese or something, you know. And our reward was that we got free dinner and we could get whatever we wanted, you know. And it's like volunteering has its perks. When I came here and I volunteered and I helped some people with their shows and they helped me with my show, we all got along and we did 3 shows and we did, you know, and it was great. You know, sometimes we just we moved forward, and the pandemic just knocked everybody off kilter, you know. And no matter what you see happening, watch as little TV and radio or listen to radio as you can, because Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. The word is alive and sharper than a double-edged sword. But don't listen to this comedy that's going on. You know, it's not very comedic, but it's, you know, I don't understand what's going on. But like I said on an earlier show, that God's the director. We're the cast of characters. You know, he knew I was going to be in singular. He knew I was going to be to get a shake. And I had joined this club in Manhattan. It was called the Global Celebration School of Supernatural Ministry. And we learned about miracle signs and wonders and everything. And there was a woman, she lived in New Jersey, and she was with her daughter. The daughter was like 12, and she had to go to Penn Station to get a train. And God told me to escort her and her daughter. And we were talking, you know, I told her the story. I think the date was like June 29th. And I told the woman and her daughter the story. And the woman looked at the daughter, and the daughter looked at the woman like they saw a ghost. And the woman had lost the daughter on that date, June 29th. And she had, you never getting over losing a loved one, but God sent me to her to tell a random story to a random person I just met that night, that she said her daughter, you know, died that night. So now we all go to Pennsylvania. There's a venue there. You know, we got free admission to the venue because we volunteered, you know, and we could pick our seats out and everything. And the woman came with her daughter. And when we make ourselves available, when we trust God and help others, We don't know what the outcome is, and we don't know what the beginning is, and we don't know who's watching. But God is always watching. It's like Santa Claus. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. God chose you. He knows you. He loved you, and you're born for such a time as this. Nothing happens by accident. You're not watching the show by accident. I'm not here by accident. It's God. A miracle is like where God chooses to remain anonymous, you know. Today I'm grateful. I woke up. I was having some anxiety because for the last almost 8 years, I've been doing a show, and like I said, it's becoming repetitious. Got a pen, got a notebook, got a Bible, got a mouth, 2 ears. Today I listen more than I speak. I'm grateful for having the ability to listen and hear from God and hope that something made sense to you. You know, God will make a way where there seems to be no way. No matter what, you're grieving. Weeping endures for a night, but joy comes in the morning, you know. Sometimes the nights are very long. You're missing people, and try to get out of the house more, help people, and trust God. And it's different today, you know. I care. I'm looking forward to this year. I believe I'm going to do some traveling. There's a couple events coming up, one in Pennsylvania, one in California. It might have closed. You know, I belong to some groups. There's unity in community. We come together, like-minded people, and create a community. You know, we started this class at church called Following Jesus, where we're learning how to make disciples of all nations. He said, go into all the world and make disciples of all nations. You know, so I'm blessed, I'm grateful. Clean and sober for 30 years, and I didn't do it on my own. And we thank you for watching, and just keep moving forward, no matter what. Just say yes. He's the director. You're in a cast of characters. And we'll see you next time on Into the Light. God bless you.